Carl Azus for CNN 10, and we welcome our viewers from around the world. It caused widespread devastation on the island of Dominica, and last night Hurricane Maria was roaring toward the U.S. territory of Puerto Rico as a Category 5 storm. We are closely watching this and will bring you an in-depth report in tomorrow's show. Meantime, CNN.com has the latest. Another natural disaster has struck the North American nation of Mexico. A little over a week after a magnitude 8.1 earthquake occurred near the country's southern coast, a magnitude 7.1 tremor hit yesterday, this one in central Mexico, and it caused some buildings to collapse in the capital of Mexico City, about 75 miles away. Initial reports indicated that dozens of people were killed nationwide, but we don't know yet how many. Information was pouring in as we produced this show. Schools were closed in the Mexican capital. The airport was closed. Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto ordered the evacuation of damaged hospitals, with patients being moved to other medical facilities. This earthquake came exactly 32 years to the day after another tremor killed about 9,500 people in and around Mexico City.
The depth was about 32 miles. That may not seem that deep to you, but that plays a very important role in terms of the vicinity. So again, here is where it is located, just for some reference point. Not quite, a little bit further to the north and west from where that 8.1 earthquake happened about a week ago. Here is a look at the population. About 28 million people felt some type of weak shaking. 20 million felt some type of moderate shaking, and you have about 9 million people that experienced some type of strong shaking. We talked about the depth, okay, 32 miles, which is about 51 kilometers, okay, up to 70 kilometers. It's still considered a shallow earthquake. So even though that may not seem like it would be at 32 miles, it is. In this grand scheme of earthquakes, that is still considered a shallow earthquake. That's important because shallow earthquakes often cause the most damage compared to the ones that are deeper, regardless of the strength. But this also was a relatively strong earthquake. When we talk about fatalities, it's estimated to be in this orange range, which could be anywhere from 100 up to 1,000. All of this information, by the way, coming from the U.S. Geological Survey in terms of economic losses as well. Now, frequency, we often get about 15 earthquakes that are between a 7 and a 7.9 every year, so it's not uncommon to get these.
The world was watching yesterday when U.S. President Donald Trump made his first address to the United Nations. Its general debate is taking place this week at the UN headquarters in New York City. President Trump has repeatedly criticized the organization for not taking enough action to achieve its goals, which include international governments working together to solve world problems. In his address yesterday, the U.S. leader said America hoped the UN would be more accountable and effective in the days ahead. And he echoed a phrase he used during his presidential inauguration speech on January 20th.
I will always put America first, just like you, as the leaders of your countries, will always and should always put your countries first. The United States will forever be a great friend to the world, and especially to its allies. But we can no longer be taken advantage of or enter into a one-sided deal where the United States gets nothing in return.
One such deal the president mentioned was the international nuclear agreement with Iran, which was reached in 2015. He also spoke out against terrorists and the countries that support them, and he took aim at North Korea and its dictator Kim Jong-un. President Trump controversially called him Rocket Man and said that if the U.S. were forced to defend itself or its allies, it would, quote, totally destroy North Korea. But he added that he hoped this wouldn't be necessary, and he thanked the other UN members involved in imposing new economic penalties on North Korea. Those haven't been effective in the past to stop the nation's weapons programs.
Breaking news right now out of North Korea. The country has carried out another missile test.
North Korea releasing pictures of Kim Jong-un inspecting what it claims is a hydrogen bomb.
So what happened in North Korea? Why have sanctions failed so badly?
Sanctions obviously have not worked. You'd almost have to say that they were designed to fail because they have been so ineffective.
And they've been so ineffective for a number of reasons. The first is the extreme and complete control that the Kim family wields over its people. So as a comparison, take Iran. It's widely accepted that the economic sanctions placed by America and other countries crippled the Iranian economy, and they were a major reason why Iran agreed to limit its nuclear program. The Iranian government didn't wield close to the amount of power over its people that North Korea does.
They still have elections, and also they still pay attention to what the general public thinks.
The total and brutal nature of North Korea's control over the media, over its citizens. It protects the regime from the consequences that sanctions have on its people. Another reason the sanctions haven't worked. Kim Jong-un has managed to protect the North Korean elite from them.
We are basically talking about the control of a small coalition of high-ranking military officials, Korean Workers' Party leaders, and top bureaucrats. Some studies estimate we are talking about somewhere between 3,000 to 5,000 people.
By doling out money and power to that small group, Kim has kept them loyal. In some ways, sanctions have even helped him do that. The poorer and more insulated North Korea is, the more its leadership depends on Kim for things like food and housing and luxury goods. So what would effective sanctions look like? One word could be key: exports. There's a common misconception that existing sanctions have already shut off North Korea's economy from the rest of the world. Not so. They still export billions of dollars worth of goods. That's coal and clothing and even food being exported out of North Korea. And bear in mind, this is a massively impoverished country with food shortages. Those goods are being traded for cash that ends up in the hands of the Kim regime.
With North Korea, the regime does not use export earnings for the welfare of the people. So the welfare of the people, I think, should be considered irrelevant to the sanctions issue. And so we should be trying to essentially shut down North Korean trade.
The money that North Korea gets from its exports helps the Kim regime in a number of ways.
Those revenues are used for two purposes, both of which are essential for regime maintenance. One of them is the development of missiles and nukes, and the other is to keep regime elements loyal to Kim Jong-un.
Cutting that export money could drastically hurt Kim Jong-un's ability to control North Korea. The problem is that the vast majority, 75% of North Korea's exports are to China. For those sanctions to have any effect, the world needs China on board. How that happens is another question.
10-second trivia. Which of these cities is located next to the Nile River? Baghdad, Iraq, Luxor, Egypt, Tripoli, Libya, or Pretoria, South Africa? The ancient city of Luxor is on the banks of the Nile in southern Egypt. Scoring a perfect 10 out of 10 today, a pet that pays for itself? You've heard of a cash cow. This is a cash cat. He has a quirk that's really rich. He collects money. At a business in Oklahoma, people pass by, slip $1 through the door, and what's now known as the cash nip kitty jumps and saves. But it's not being spent on some fancy feast. The business owner has been donating the kitty's cash to a charity for the homeless. So all that money for the kitty doesn't just become litter, y'all. They're keeping close tabbies on it and donating it to a good cause. I'm Carl Zeus, covering history, archaeology, and mathematics for CNN 10.